8:02 a.m. When I entered Charlie's this morning, Lacey and Maura were already there. Lacey sat behind the service desk, speaking quickly with her hands while Maura soaked up every word she said. Lacey had been working with Maura and Gabe to help them harvest the energy supply of Charlie's. Many customers leave a sort of emotional footprint when they shop here. Since they clearly weren't going anywhere, Lacey decided to teach them how to harvest the energy from those emotions. It helped them retain memories, better understand the world, and interact with their surroundings. They had been unconsciously doing it since they first appeared here after death, but she was teaching them how to control it. This lesson seemed a bit different today, though. The first thing I heard out of Maura's mouth was, "So, they no longer do lobotomies, but you all are willing to poke holes in your own body for fashion?" She reached out and lightly flicked Lacey's septum piercing while she said fashion, making Lacey giggle. "How underfunded was your asylum if they still did lobotomies?" asked Lacey. Maura rolled her eyes. "Why do you think I wanted to leave so bad?" Lacey giggled again before finally acknowledging me. She gave me a kiss on the cheek and wrapped an arm around my waist. "Good morning." "Morning," I responded with a smile. "Hey, Maura." "Yo," she responded. I walked over to Register 1 and put in my login code in preparation for the day. Lacey asked if I needed her help with anything, but I told her they could keep doing their thing. Before I had even walked off, however, history class was abruptly put on hold. Our attention went toward the sliding glass doors as two women entered, one younger and one older. The gears in my head began to turn as I realized I recognized the woman, but I couldn't remember from where. And then it hit me. Ursula Jones was walking toward us, the father's replacement. Surprisingly, weapons are not a hot commodity at Charlie's. I mean, they are, but they aren't laying them out all willy-nilly. Most are in protective packaging. So, to defend myself, I picked up the thing closest to me, the conveyor belt grocery divider. I brandished it like a sword, pointing it right at the enemy. "Good morning, darlings," greeted Ursula as she placed a ribbon basket of muffins onto the register's conveyor belt. Her short brown hair was rolled into poodle-cut curls. She wore a simple black dress, black flats, pearl earrings, and bright red lipstick. Very fashionable, but I know enough about femme fatales to not let my guard down. She gave my makeshift weapon a look of pity before gently moving it downwards with one finger. "Did the previous owners not tell you?" The younger girl, a miniature of Ursula and surely her daughter, eyed us curiously as she sucked on a cherry-red lollipop. She was decked out in more black than her mother, with 3 cross necklaces adorning her neck, all of their chains at varying lengths. The only color about her was the forest green tips to her long black hair. "Tell us what?" asked Lacey. I could tell by the fists clenched at her sides that she was also on high alert, and ready to summon any number of powers to defend the store. Ursula gave us a wide grin. "I am the new owner of Charlie's," she announced, before motioning to her gothly daughter. "And this is my daughter Daisy, your new store manager." 9:10 a.m. While randomly getting new bosses today might be stressful to us, and possibly even to you, dear reader, especially if you've been in a similar scenario, the owners have never been fond of others' emotions. Want to know how they told us goodbye? After I called them approximately 15 times, all of which got sent to voicemail, and also texted them asking what was going on, they finally gave us a response. The response was creating a group chat, sending a message to said group chat containing only the peace sign emoji, and then blocking all of our numbers. However, as long as the doors are open, the customers will keep coming. And they did. And so, the day went on. Before we even had time to process the huge change and how it might impact us, we were getting our morning rush. "Ahem," said a voice behind me. I turned around to find Daisy waiting expectantly with her hot pink clipboard. It had black and white star stickers all over the back. "I would very much like you to show me all of this business's amenities." I nodded before pausing my task. I would have to finish counting the clown statues later. The only reason I had started counting them was because a customer told me they saw one wandering around, which would explain why they had been going missing over the last few weeks. I got up to 13, so don't let me forget that number. I took her to the bloody bathroom first and explained its historical significance. When the blood flow was still a thing to worry about, we would jokingly say that the bathroom was menstruating. The bathroom hadn't had its time of the month in a while, but it's definitely something we would not forget. Next up, I brought her to Gary's deli. While she seemed rather cheerful at Gary's lovable demeanor, I think she was a little put off when he couldn't tell her where his special of the day spleens had come from. My stern look told him to keep quiet, which made his smile quickly disappear, and disappointment took its place. She asked me if I ordered it, and I told her I let Gary handle the deli tasks. I also chose not to mention that I had accidentally found Gary's little black book of victims a little while back, and I had a good guess at just how well he knew those spleens. To be fair, little black books of all kinds are not considered conversational topics to me, but our little hunter Gary will always have a soft spot in my heart, no matter how deranged he seems. After the fifth, "Gary forgot," that the poor guy muttered, I distracted Daisy by mentioning the display he regularly decorated to brag on him a bit. Deranged or not, the guy has definitely got some talent. In the decorating department, not the carving one. I ended the tour with some of the new additions to Charlie's: the Witch's Brew Cafe, the magical vending machine, the housewares department, and the extension of the parking lot. She had a few questions as to why there was a wizard living in the parking lot in a small tent, and I had no answers. I had even fewer answers when his pet duck waddled out from the tent, lit up a charcoal grill, and began grilling frogs. The wizard gave us a wave, his wispy beard blowing in the wind as he stood there, in just a pair of white boxers polka-dotted with red hearts, and a matching wizard hat. We waved back before making our way back inside. Pretty much the only time Daisy showed any emotion during our tour was when Cheryl decided to join us. Well, really, she kind of showed up when the poltergeist showed up in housewares. I'll get to that later. Don't nag me. By the end of the tour, Cheryl was absolutely bawling her eyes out and shouting, "Where has the time gone?" Daisy attempted to console her and give her a reassuring pat on the back. There, said Daisy awkwardly. The whole interaction came off as more robotic than anything, so I was shocked when it actually calmed Cheryl down. But then again, Cheryl is dating a cyborg. Okay, so you've obviously met Cheryl and Gary. You've met me, Lacey, and the coffee shop folks. Have you met Gabe? She shook her head. Who's Gabe? Unbeknownst to her, a suddenly summoned Gabe appeared behind her. Boo, he said, causing her to drop her clipboard. She glared at him as it clattered to the floor. Oops. I laughed at them and received my own glare from Daisy. I rubbed the back of my head nervously. Sorry, he's become a bit of a trickster since his death. Just as quickly as he had shown up, Gabe disappeared again, and that seemed to conclude the tour. Daisy went off to monitor and assist everyone's duties, as she put it, and I went back to my previous task. Now, where was I? Clown statues. Let me count again. 1, 2, 3, 12? That's what it was last time, right? 10:36 a.m. Here's yours, Jared, announced Danielle as she placed my caramel frappuccino on the counter. Lacey's is almost ready. Thanks, I said. I grabbed it and took a sip, enjoying the icy treat. Within 30 seconds, nearly a quarter of it was gone, and I could already hear Lacey nagging me about coming to buy a second coffee later. I may have adopted a coffee addiction thanks to our new cafe. Unironically, the Witch's Brew was a magical place. I absolutely loved the atmosphere, with its high ceilings, dim lights, and gothic charm. The only colors involved in the decor were Halloween shades: orange, purple, and green. Oh, and black, of course. Cheryl bounded up to the register giddily as I slurped on my drink. I'm so glad you guys are finally open. Feels like I've been waiting forever. Drusilla, the cashier, gave her a puzzled look. "Honey, we've been open since the store opened." Cheryl gave her a puzzled look back. "Every time I tried to come in, the door was always locked." Drusilla, Danielle, and Blount, the other barista, began debating whether or not Cheryl had been hexed. As I turned around to look at their door, which was currently held open with a door stopper, an idea dawned on me. "Cheryl," I said, interjecting into their conversation, "when you came to see if they were open, did you push or pull on the door handle?" She tilted her head to the side and placed a finger on her lips, as if lost in deep thought. "Pull," she finally said. The sign on the door read "Push." A chorus of "Ah" filled the room as the explanation came together in everyone's heads. Cheryl stayed oblivious. Actually, the room's response made her even more confused. "Oh, honey," said Drusilla, her voice full of pity. "What can we get for you?" "It's on the house," said Danielle, her voice also dripping with pity. Blount handed me Lacey's drink as Cheryl ordered some complicated coffee recipe with nearly 20 ingredients that she had found somewhere online. The witches all looked disgusted, but it sounded kind of good to me. As I was about to make my way out the door, Lacey texted me that she had enough time to meet me at the cafe to enjoy our coffee together. I talked to the witches and Cheryl while I waited for her. "Here you go, darling," said Danielle as she handed Cheryl her coffee. As she was turning around to pass it over, I saw her point her finger swirling above the beverage, as it softly spun around its cup. She knew I had seen what she had done, so she gave me a wink as Cheryl took a sip. She mumbled something about giving Cheryl a little pep in her step. Apparently, the first sip was so good that Cheryl felt the need to take a few gulps. Had I known what she was going to do, I would have highly advised her not to take a drink from the list of hot coffees, but there's a high probability she wouldn't have listened to me anyways. I could tell the witches felt the same by the concerned look they gave her. After demolishing nearly half the coffee, Cheryl's body spasmed and jerked, making her stand up straight as a board as she yelled, "The square root of pi is 1.77245. Danielle's face completely blanked, as if her brain was rebooting before cringing at what she had just done. "May have added a little too much pep," she said as Cheryl continued rattling off numbers. 11:02 a.m.
"Hey, Jared, can you tell Gabe to come over to the office?"
asked Daisy.
"I've called him 3 times over the radio and he hasn't come."
I had failed to mention to her that Gabe didn't use a radio, because they fell through his body if he lost focus. It just so happened that he was walking by me as Daisy finished asking her favor. He was pulling a rather large pallet of merchandise behind him, and I told Daisy I would let him know before shouting his name. His head snapped toward the direction of my voice, causing him to lose focus on his current task. However, the pallet had not yet gotten the memo that he was stopping, and panic filled me at the possibility of him getting hurt. "Oh crap, wait!" I yelled, motioning for him to get away. I winced as the pallet drew closer and closer, and he still wasn't moving. He was also giving me a rather strange look, but I just kept yelling for him to move. And then the pallet simply went through him, and my body slacked. "Oh," I said as he approached me, laughing at my freakout. "Did you forget I'm dead?" he asked with a smirk. I rolled my eyes before relaying Daisy's message, and he wandered off to see what she needed. As I busied myself with checking if my register's drawer had enough change, I wondered how he decided whether to simply teleport or walk normally to places. Personally, I would teleport everywhere if given the opportunity. "Fifi!" Cheryl's screech made me launch a roll of quarters in my hand across the registers, accidentally landing some hits on a big burly Sasquatch. I gulped as the monster lumbered over to me. His hot, stinking breath heated up my cheeks, as anger bubbled in his eyes. As he released a roar so loud it blew the hair out of my face, I snatched up a stapler beside me and aimed at his large, furry face, ready yet fully expecting to die. He raised a meaty fist, but before his first attack could be landed, our battle was sidetracked as Cheryl screamed once more. This time, however, it was followed by a cat's hiss. A black blur clambered up onto my conveyor belt, as an out-of-breath Cheryl nearly collided with it. She leaped for the small black void, and it hissed again. A thick chrome collar looped its small neck with a flashing purple light dangling from it. "Enough, Mother," ordered the kitten. With enough feistiness to ignite a fire, the fluffy creature turned to the behemoth before me and hissed. Without hesitation, the Sasquatch raced out of the front doors, before the kitten's fur could even rise to its full extent. He'd even forgotten his groceries, but I had no plans of running them out to him. The cat rolled her eyes, before settling into a relaxed loaf mode in front of me. "Yes?" I asked her. "We're out of my brand of cat food." "The truck's gonna be here a little after lunch," I responded. If she'd had eyebrows, I swear they would have creased at my response. "And how does that help me during lunch?" "Well, considering it will be your..." I paused dramatically to look at my non-existent wristwatch. "Third meal of the day already. I think you'll be fine." The kitten's eyes became slits as they stayed glued to me. Every hair on its body raised as it slowly stood up. Her claws came out, gouging deep holes into the counter below her. My eyes drifted over to Cheryl to figure out what was going on, but I got no reassurance. She looked ready to piss herself, honestly, especially when the cat burst into flames. I jumped back and immediately reached for my eyebrows, fearful they had been singed off. Turns out she had more than enough feistiness. With a shriek of rage, the cat jumped up onto her back legs and launched a ball of fire toward aisle 7. A fully inflamed Chip escaped the aisle and zoomed over to our cooler housing the bags of ice for sale. He didn't even bother opening its door and just jumped straight through, creating a gaping hole in the thick metal. Luckily, the ice's cool embrace succeeded in putting out the fire, and wisps of steamy relief floated upwards. Chip gave Cheryl and me a thumbs up from his safe space, and a piece of his melted, rubbery cyborg skin fell off. The cat released something between a hiss and a growl before hopping off of my conveyor belt. Every step she took burned the floor, leaving a trail of blackened paw prints in her wake. Although tiny, her heat made her seem bigger, and I could already feel a trail of sweat trickling down my back. The sprinkler turned on, but it did practically nothing to her blaze. Cheryl rushed over to Chip in the cooler to make sure he was okay, while I ran to the service desk.
"Attention all shoppers. If you can do so safely, calmly make your way to the exit and avoid the flaming cat. I repeat, all customers please calmly make your way to the exit and avoid the flaming cat."
Fifi walked in the direction of aisle 4, where a man decked out in some strange outfit was exiting, and he began shouting belligerent words at her. She began screaming back at him, but I couldn't hear them over the customers' screams as they fled to the exit, practically trampling each other.
"Literally nothing about that was calm. But okay,"
I said into the microphone. I began walking in the direction of the cat and the man, slowly, just to get a better look. His body was mostly covered in silver from what I could see. After a few steps, Gabe materialized beside me to join me. He walked in silence a couple more steps until he asked, "Is that Cheryl's baking pan on his chest?" We both stopped, and I squinted in confusion. Yeah, I think it is." We entered a moment of silence before finally locking eyes. "Gary," we both said before continuing and also speeding up our walk toward them. When we got close enough to hear their conversation, Gary was gesturing wildly with his hands. I could now see all the pots, pans, and utensils he had melted together to create an armor. This was one of his unemployment projects from back when he went through his Transformers craze. While it was nowhere near the level of car parts, it was still pretty impressive. "Fifi no burn down store, no burn loved ones, no burn customers," yelled Gary. Fifi let out a furious roar that sent a spurt of flames at Gary. Gabe and I let out screams of grief and terror at seeing our friend get possibly roasted alive. It felt both like 1 second, and also an eternity that the flames were upon him. Either way, I fully expected him to be dead. Yet, when Fifi closed her mouth, Gary still stood there. looking much angrier than before. Our screams quickly died in our throats, getting cut off so quickly that I choked and began coughing. Gary let out a roar of his own before grabbing a chunk of metal off his back that was once a cookie sheet. He bended the materials as if they were clay, shaping it into a makeshift mouthpiece. As soon as she pieced together what he was doing, they began a game of cat and mouse through the aisles, where Fifi, ironically, wasn't the cat. Fifi would randomly throw fireballs to divert Gary, but he would take them like a champ and keep rolling. Gabe and I watched, fascinated with the fight. At one point, Gabe vanished, and reappeared a moment later with 2 bags of freshly popped popcorn for us. It was easy to see how frustrated Gary was becoming, and we felt bad that we couldn't help. We still couldn't understand how Gary was so unfazed by her fire, though. And so the chase continued. That was until Cheryl appeared, with a now bandaged Chip hobbling beside her. Ignore the fact that he's a cyborg and doesn't need bandages, because that's clearly what Cheryl did. She let out a screeching, "Fifi!" at the top of her lungs, and the kitten stopped in her tracks. Gary was about to quickly grab her by the scruff of her neck while she was distracted. She yelped before beginning to whine. "But Uncle Gary, I just wanted lunch." She struggled against him, covering her mouth, eventually melting the piece of metal until it was useless anyway. Gary groaned like a father, using his last bit of patience. "Fifi going to time out." Her flames blazed once more, just to the left of me, barely missing me by inches, which was entirely too close in my opinion. I made a mental note to check and see if I still had eyebrows later. She actually did hit Gabe, causing him to scream as he too forgot his ghostly qualities. He blushed bright red with embarrassment afterwards. Fifi's roars continued Godzilla style, taking down a shelf of bread, 2 self-checkout stations, and a snowman customer that had been lingering in the store. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer," the melted man's mouthcoals blubbered, before floating separately away through the sprinkler's puddles. Gary carried her through the store as her tantrum continued, bringing her to the safety of the parking lot. By the way, did I mention that this is Charlie's new pet? This is actually the 3rd incident we've had like this week. You would think we'd have a process or a plan for when she does this, but that's still a work in progress. Rage therapy is definitely on the list, though. "I'll let the wizard know we need a reset spell done," said Gabe before vanishing. Cheryl was able to completely calm Fifi by running to a store down the road to buy her specialty cat food, so all ended up being well. I made another mental note after this encounter, to keep an extra stock of that brand to avoid Fifi's hangry wrath in the future. Oh, and Danielle later explained to me that she had put a protection spell on Gary's makeshift armor, but that she had never told him that she did. That's how Gary was unaffected by Fifi's fiery flames. However, if you asked Gary, he would tell you with full seriousness the Transformer gods gave his armor magical abilities. Did you know there's a secret underground religion for Transformers? Learn something new every day. Charlie's group chat, 12:03 p.m. Lacey, do we sell dentures? Jared, no, why? Lacey, zombie customers with no teeth. Why would you even let that sale happen? Cheryl, the customer's always right. Lacey liked Cheryl's message. Cheryl, tomorrow is Chip's B-Day. Lacey, cyborgs can have birthdays? Chip, it's my manufacture date. Don't you guys have one? Jared, yeah, I got Lacey from the lab last April. Lacey, my birthday's in October. Jared, that's just what you're programmed to think. Acid Dude, what am I programmed to think? Jared, at this point, I'm pretty sure that you're programmed to have no thoughts. Cheryl, that's so cool. Can I do that? Chip, I'll research how to remove your motherboard. Acid Dude, I'll let you borrow mine. Jared added Daisy to the chat. Daisy, good afternoon. Cheryl, hasta luego. 12:27 p.m. Do you know what really sucks? When you really, really just want the day to go right, but life says screw you and throws you one curveball after another. My limit had not only been reached, but massacred. I felt like I had received a curveball to the face, my head was pounding so hard. I have to rant for a moment, so if you don't want to hear me whining, skip to after the bullet points. Here's the crap I've had to deal with so far today, and that's not including the new ownership being thrown at us. Chip got into an argument with one of the card readers, and it chose to go offline until he apologized. He refused, and it's still offline. Gary dragged a centaur carcass across the store and traumatized several customers. Cheryl nearly drove her new Lamborghini through the front windows. She tried to gaslight me into believing there was a road through the front window and Charlie's was just in the way. Danielle decided to prank everyone by spelling the whole store to only speak pig Latin. Thankfully, it wasn't long before she reversed the spell, because she was the only one who found it funny. We have yet to convince Acid Dude that it was just a spell, and not some miracle language he created, and then completely forgot 20 minutes later. So, even as I sat at the break room table and tried to enjoy my free pizza, I still felt like a curveball might smash through the break room door and knock me out for one final blow. And it was only just lunchtime. Oh, let me explain the free pizza thing. Since it was our first date with Daisy, Ursula told her we could close the store for an hour to all have lunch together. She ordered us a couple pizzas and told us to pick out some chips and drink. Everyone else seemed to be enjoying it at least. "Why are you so pale?" Acid Dude asked Daisy. "I'm dead," she explained. Well, undead, really. "Cotards?" asked Acid Dude. "No, I'm a vampire." She opened her mouth a bit to flash her fangs. Acid Dude scrunched up his face in disgust. "Homie, you need to go to the dentist." So far, I've only seen Daisy show two emotions while here. "Oh, you poor thing," and "Are you really that stupid?" The second one kind of mimicked curiosity, but it most definitely wasn't. I'll let you guess which one she was giving Acid Dude right now. When the lunch party had reached my third slice of pizza o'clock, Lacey and Gabe started bickering. I'm not even sure what started it because I'd been so zoned out, but it felt like this weird, dark cloud came over them. It felt like it came out of nowhere. One minute I was staring at a lopsided ceiling tile and trying to determine if I saw a clown staring at me through its gap, and the next they were shouting. "How'd someone like you even get a job here?" yelled Gabe. "Did you flirt your way into the position?" Well, that escalated incredibly quickly, folks. Here comes Daisy's fake curiosity look. Honestly, I couldn't blame her. "Will you quit insinuating I got this job just because of my looks?" To be fair, Lacey was gorgeous, but she was also very good at her job. "Well, it definitely wasn't because of skill." "I had enough skill to befriend your murderer," she snapped. "Just because you're a freak that likes freaky things doesn't mean you belong here any more than I do. I mean, I belong here so much that my spirit came here after death." "Just because your spirit is trapped here doesn't mean you belong. From what I heard, you were being marketed as Gary's daily special while I was being trained." I was on the verge of telling them to cut it out before I lost my mind, but... "Oh yeah? Well, at least I didn't use a love spell to make everyone, including a Wendigo, like me at this job. But then you fucked up and made Jarrett fall in love with you, didn't you?" Wait, what? Lacey didn't respond. Instead, her eyes began to well up with tears as they darted back and forth between Gabe and me. As soon as the words left his mouth, I could see the dark cloud affecting him lift and recognition enter his eyes. That still didn't take away the hurt of what he had just said. "What?" I said out loud to her. Her face flushed with worry and shame. I can explain." "No," I said, standing up from my chair so fast that it fell backward. I almost fell with it, but I regained my balance and once more said, "No." My brain felt like it was exploding. Had my love for her, our love for each other, all been a manipulation tactic for a freaking grocery store job? Everyone had quieted at this point, except for Cheryl, who had been oblivious to the argument, and who kept saying, "I will always love you," to Chip Jr. Chip quickly covered her mouth. Daisy once again had a look of pity on her face, but I ignored it while I made my departure. I made sure to grab a box of pizza on my way out, though, and I ignored Lacey's final attempt to stop me. Today could most definitely go fuck itself. 2:42 p.m. We did inventory last week, and I screwed up by accidentally ordering twice the number of crackers we needed. I had them marked down to half price, which Mr. Ducksworth had noticed. A paddling of ducks marching into the store was something I had never expected to see, but I'm glad I got to experience it. I have to admit, they were rather adorable in their determination to wipe out our supply of crackers. And Mr. Ducksworth was even more adorable, as he guided their mission. Don't tell him I said that. I don't want to be slapped again. The cause and effect of this is that I am now restocking the crackers. Normally, the overnight stocking crew does this, but the Duck Army bought literally every box. Even now, I can see them eyeing me as I stock the shelves, munching on their crackers greedily. I had to block off the aisle with shopping carts, so they knew waddling onto this aisle was off limits. As I placed one of the slender boxes of crackers onto the shelf, every single box of crackers I had placed behind it toppled like dominoes. I groaned before placing their shipping box on the shelf beside them to free my hands. As I straightened the crackers, the cardboard box flew off the shelf as if thrown. I rolled my eyes. Already over today, and lacking the patience to deal with the shelf's antics. I was going to throw the box away, I told him. I just had to fix these boxes first. A box of graham crackers slid to the front of the shelf, and I watched as the box's logo morphed into the words, "It wasn't us." A grin spread across my face as the feat left me amazed. "Why have you never told me you could do that?" I asked them. "That's actually pretty cool." The bear on the box shrugged before its cheeks blushed, smiling smugly and waving its paw as if to say, "Aw, shucks, that old trick?" I jumped as all of the boxes on the shelf behind me were flung out so hard that some of them hit my back. The shelves in front of me responded by morphing all of their items' logos from the beginning of the aisle to the end into one long string of, "Hey." Then it threw some items back, which I ducked to avoid. To my shock, they did not hit the shelves on the other side. Instead, it hit some type of force field in front of the shelves and clattered to the ground. I watched one single box float into the air, before being thrown at me too. It whacked me in the face, causing me to yell out more in shock than pain. The logos changed once more to read, "Leave Jared alone," all the way down the aisle. "I'm done with this," I announced while raising my hands above my head. I made my way out of the aisles, calling out, "Clean up your mess when you're done," over my shoulder. Later on, when I saw Gabe, I asked him if we had a poltergeist in the building. "Oh yeah," he confirmed. "Cheryl spent an hour this morning playing catch with it." "Is that all it wants?" He nodded, and I nodded back in understanding. "And the shelves don't want to play catch with it?" I said, mostly to myself because Gabe had already walked off. I realized that an intervention had to happen when the altercations began to involve customers. I saw a man angrily speedballing cans into the shelves surrounding him, and I immediately stepped in to help. After apologizing to him and offering a 50% discount that might make Ursula hate me, I turned to the shelves. "Look, guys, this has got to stop. Putting me through it is one thing because I'm the store's guinea pig, but dragging customers into it is where I draw the line. It's extremely bad for business." I crossed my arms and waited for a response, but none came. After a couple of minutes of waiting for one, I sighed and began tapping my foot, as my aggravation and impatience grew. Maybe 5 seconds later is when I saw the cans to my right begin to tumble off their shelves. Soon, hands appeared, their formation resembling someone swimming forward while underwater. "What the?" I began, as I saw the owner of the hands shimmying through the space it had cleared out. Stringy tendrils of hair trickled over the shelf edge, falling downwards until they almost touched the floor. The crown of a head peeked out over the edge, making me step back a bit. Recognition began to creep into my bones, but I couldn't tell why until I heard a familiar popping of the being's neck. I debated running away, but the head snapped upwards before I could respond. A foul and rotten face locked eyes with me, giving me a horrific grin. "Deborah!" I yelled while falling back on my butt. Before I had even landed on the floor, however, she was gone. I looked all around me rapidly, dread overwhelming to the point that I felt bile rising up in my throat. Deborah's disembodied laughter began to fill my ears, and I felt like I was about to pass out. Until a note floated downwards and landed in my lap. I picked it up and read the scrawling handwriting. It almost resembled a child's writing, even written with crayon, and it was something I had most definitely never seen before. "Gotcha," it read. I groaned. That wasn't funny. Another note floated downwards and landed in my lap again. Yes, it was. I heard a clinking above me and looked up to find a stack of cans with their logos just changed. It kinda was, they read. I rolled my eyes. At least you guys are getting along, I guess. 7:13 p.m. Knock, knock, knock. I sighed in annoyance. "Go away." "Can I come inside?" spoke up the child's voice on the other side of the locked glass doors. His eerily monotone voice had become a rather aggravating occurrence to me. "No. Go away," I said, more forcefully. "Ooh, Barty is here," Cheryl crooned from behind me. "Hi, Barty boy." "My name is Bartholomew," said the boy, sounding slightly annoyed before switching back to his bland cadence. "Can you let me inside, Cheryl?" "No, I'm sorry, Barty," responded Cheryl, her voice dripping with disappointment. "Jared says I'll die if I do." "I'm not gonna hurt you," said the strange child. "It's cold out here. I would like to call my mother." "He doesn't have a mother because he's not actually a child," I explained. "We've been over this, Cheryl." "Yeah, but he's just so darn cute," she responded. "And clearly he needs new clothes. I mean, these were popular in, like, colonial days." I finally looked up from my register to take a closer look at Barty. He was also looking down at his outfit as if he hadn't realized his fashion sense was centuries behind. When he looked back up, his jet black eyes locked onto mine. The sickly sweet smell of death was already getting unbearable, and that was with him on the other side of the door still. His eyes resembled black pits of despair. They beckoned you closer and closer, and if you got too close, they would swallow you up. They began unearthing my deepest fears. Lacey never loving me, the store firing me, dying alone. Just before the feelings consumed me entirely, before I was convinced that the only answer to my salvation was to let him inside, I managed to look away. "Go away, Barty," I ordered once more. His porcelain face glared at me. "My name is Bartholomew, and I need to come inside." Cheryl looked toward me in hopefulness. When I didn't respond, she began to shimmy closer to the door as if I wouldn't notice. "Cheryl, he's dangerous." "Barty wouldn't hurt a fly." I watched as she ignored me and stepped just before the door. Barty's coal-like eyes stared up at hers, and she quickly let out a cry like she was in pain. She leapt backwards, falling onto her butt. Yet only a second later, she was on her feet, running as far away from the front doors as she could. I turned towards the rapid footsteps coming from the direction of the office, to see a frazzled Lacey throwing her hair up into a quick, messy bun, as if ready to fight any intruder we had. "What's going on?" I avoided eye contact with her while responding. "Barty's here, and Cheryl got too close." It was hard not to look at her after being in love with her for so long. I noticed her looking for the chain around my neck, double-checking that I was still wearing the protection pendant she'd made me. Did it work? Our eyes connected, and I looked away while shrugging. I didn't want to take the chance of not wearing it, knowing what the store throws at you. It did not prevent heartbreak, I'll tell you that much. "Can I use your telegraph?" spoke up Barty. "Wrong century, demon," snapped Lacey. She crossed her arms and locked eyes with him. "And I told you not to come back." Barty and Lacey bickered back and forth for a few more minutes before the being suddenly disappeared, angry that his wish had once again not been fulfilled. Lacey looked away for a split second to catch something the poltergeist threw at her, and then he was gone. Barty is part of the reason why Cheryl will never get her own keys to the store. We've even let Gary have his own set, but we just can't trust Cheryl not to open it to any number of creatures we have to deal with on a daily basis. Barty seemed unaffected by Lacey's protection and diversion spells, and we all know how successful her spells are, based off of the last entry. I really need to shut up and stop talking about it, but it's all I can focus on. I think I just need some time to think. So, I'll talk to you guys later. 9:54 p.m. Heyo, what up guys? It's Gabe here. Jared said I could type up the conclusion. I guess I have no idea how hard it is to type when you don't have a physical form though. Finding the right amount of pressure to press the keys and not completely demolish the keyboard is tedious. The pain is all worth it for you guys though. You're always there for us, so I want to be there for you. Just look behind you. I'm just kidding. If I really wanted to visit you, you'd have no idea about it. There's been a strange vibe around the store today. I'm not sure why. Everyone just seems off. Even me. It took me 20 minutes to check a customer's single item out earlier, because I couldn't remember how to open a plastic shopping bag. We've all been stressed. There's just this feeling of darkness over us. I hope things improve. And I hope you guys keep coming along for the ride. Peace out. Alright, hope you guys all enjoyed the newest edition of Charlie's Department Store. This whole series was written by an amazing writer named thatreallyshortchick on Reddit. So I hope you all will check out the link below and check out their profile on Reddit. Also, they wanted me to let you know that there's a Charlie's Department Store book coming out in the near future. So keep an eye on the channel for that. I'll have more news coming up on the channel with upcoming installments of Charlie's. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great night. Become a channel member today for early access, bonus videos, and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. If you'd like another way to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/JordanGroupHorror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward. And if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you, which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow. And see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.